Squires, and then the DC Assault was like the Adidas team.
Yeah.
But in terms of like Virginia, because where I grew up, I mean, it was 4.5 hours away from where all these guys lived, and so my AAU team, the Roanoke Jaguars, were definitely not a rival because we could never beat Boo.
No animosity.
Yeah. I was like the Kevin Durant of the Virginia AAU scene. It's like, I've never won a state championship or a national championship. I can't get past Boo. I'm going to go join Boo. Actually, you know what's funny? I was looking up today some of the players that have played for him.
Yeah.
And they asked me to play after my freshman year on the 17s. So I did 3 summers on the 17s. And I hadn't met anybody on the team yet. I had not met Boo. And I flew after the 15 under nationals. I flew and met them in Atlanta for Peach Jam. And I like showed up at the airport with 2 duffels for the month because we were on the road for a month.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, this must be what it's like to be a hired gun. Because like I had no idea if like I would suck. I mean, I just turned 15. I was like, I might suck at this level.
Yeah.
And I was so worried I was only going to make it like for that month and then have to go back to Roanoke. And, you know, it all worked out. So I feel like to Tommy's original question, like I'm an OG Boo guy.
You are.
Because I did 3 years with Boo on the 17th.
I did too. So, yeah, no, you're definitely an OG. He talks about you a lot. You, Alan. I don't really talk about Alonzo as much. But he's definitely on there. Probably Joe Smith for sure.
When you were playing on the EYBL circuit, I think one year you led the EYBL in scoring at 27, 28 a game.
Yeah.
What did your AAU games feel like? What did they look like? I feel like your game was tailor-made for EYBL.
Yeah. Because I really started like getting like the leader of the scoring in like the last session. Because I started scoring like 40s that session. Because we was in Dallas. We was playing some teams that we really like had to win to qualify. So I was just getting 40s and stuff. But it was all just, you know, Boo, calling timeouts on the drawing board. Just give it a Cam. I'm just like, oh, hey, cool. I mean, that's fine. He said, just give it a Cam. And I'm just like, cool. And that's how it really happened, man. You know, we went to the semifinals my final year in Peach Jam, so that was cool. You know, you play on the big court. So that was really a good thing for me. It was really exciting. You know, a lot of memories I had with AAU, so I can't really get those back, but I love to like think about it once in a while.
I just realized something real quick. I want to give a shout out to Larry Butler and the Illinois Warriors. Because I realized when he brought that Peach Jam thing up, they were the team.
They were the rival?
Lost to them my first year when they had D. Wade and Darius Miles in the national semifinals. And then going into my senior year, we lost to them in the semifinals of the Peach Jam. They had Iguodala. And then we lost to them in the national championship. And Iggy locked me up. I'm not gonna lie. Locked my ass up. I was like 4 for 16. In fairness, it was the second day of the game. The first semifinals, the national semifinals at 8 a.m. in the morning, bro.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
8 a.m. in the morning.
That's crazy.
And then the second game was like at 10:30.
No, that's nasty.
So we beat Rashad McCants and Justin Gray. They were on Charlotte. Beat them in the semifinals. Fucking Iggy came in fresh.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Imagine them doing that now.
Oh, no, I'll lose my mind. 8 a.m. game.
and you know this. I don't know what this thing is like, but for us at the time, that the Nationals were the last tournament of July.
Yes.
So you've been on the road for a month.
Yeah.
You've played 2 or 3 games a day. You've been to Nike camp. I did USA basketball every summer. So I've been like 6 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And then the culmination of that is a fucking 8 a.m. game.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
What?
It's the same exact thing. The schedule is crazy around July or the month before. It's like you're always doing something like the camps and stuff. It's all that. It's crazy.
And all I've eaten is Rally's cheeseburger and fries because my mom gave me $200 for the month, and I'm like, I just want one normal meal.
This is an asterisk. This doesn't count. I feel like this is a.
I'll give it to Iggy. He locked me up.
What point in your life did you feel like you had to give it to Cam? And I feel like you haven't looked back, but like, when did that start?
Really, 8th grade year, I was on a team, on a boo team. You know how he tried to like bring everybody up through his teams. So I was on his team my 8th grade year, and that's where really like it started for real. That's how I got my mindset. You know, my one-on-one game got better. That's how I was like able to do, just get the ball to Cam and, let him create something. So really my 8th grade year, that's when I really trying to tap into that for sure.
I like learning stuff about guys on their Wikipedia page. I really do. Tell me about this disagreement your sophomore year where you sat out the entire season. Cam took player empowerment to another era.
No, it was crazy, man. It was like, I don't know. I guess you know how high school coaches are, because he was more of on the team loaded side of things. And like, I guess, because I was really like technically a free agent my 9th grade year. I was deciding between Boo, Team Loaded, Team Durant, and I guess he felt like he could just get me on the team because I played on the high school team that I was on. So I was really just, I was open. I mean, I don't really look at stuff like that because obviously Boo was the better situation for me. He was closer, and I had a solid relationship with him, and I kind of knew about Boo and everything. And obviously being from the area, everybody wants to play with Boo, so it was like, it was really the best decision. But I guess that's where the conflict happened. And he just started doing some funny things toward me during like the preseason. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not playing. So
wow.
Yeah.
Whole season.
Yeah, the whole season. And then I played with Boo on the 17s. On the 17s, later that summer. So it was really like ironic, but it was like, So I just worked out the whole time, got ready for the EYBL season. That's what really helped me.
You then went to Oak Hill, and for anyone not familiar, Oak Hill is a legendary private school. And when I say it's in Southwest Virginia, I mean true Southwest Virginia. Like,
they call it the mouth of Wilson.
The middle of nowhere. I actually had an opportunity to go there. Like, I got sort of recruited by those schools, and I opted not to go to Mouth of Wilson. But for all the listeners and viewers, tell us about Mouth of Wilson, Virginia, and the Oak Hill experience.
It's nothing. It's about 20, 30 miles of straight road. Straight roads, no nothing. And then the closest, I don't even remember the name of the city. An hour, it's like 45 minutes to an hour, the closest city to like at least see some food or some buildings or something. So it's really crazy. And then when you get on, there's no cell phone Wi-Fi. You ain't got no Wi-Fi. Everything is canceled. So it's really, it's tough.
I've never heard Abingdon, Virginia described as a city before.
That's a good thing around there. It's a city around there.
Do you think that contributes to their success? Is the fact that
no distractions,
no one has anything to do?
Yeah.
Or the fact that they recruit NBA players.
Yeah, that too. I feel like back then it was a good thing. And even when I went for the basketball aspect. But now, kids are like, it's like a whole bunch of different schools now. And some kids just don't want to go through that no more. Like, no cell phone Wi-Fi. Kids got to have their phones now. So, most kids don't want to go through that. So I feel like they're kind of building it back up a little bit. But, it's definitely tough to get the kids like they want to because, so many different schools out here. So it's crazy.
I have a question for you that just came to me because I feel in some ways you and I are from a different generation in terms of how we grew up playing high school and how we grew up playing AAU. Like, EYBL, there was no EYBL league, but we still went to some of the same tournaments. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it definitely happened later in the 90s, and certainly a little bit when I was in high school, where high school players are sort of looked at as a commodity.
Yeah.
And it feels like, even just in hearing you talk about your experience with your high school coach at Oscar Smith, or the recruitment from the AAU programs and going to Oak Hill, like, you really lived that.
Hmm.
And I'm sure guys that you either went to college with, or played AAU against or with, guys in the pros, like, you guys have all now lived that. And from the outside, a lot of people describe it as like a very toxic environment. What was your sort of overall, now that you're like on the other side, you're in the league, what's your overall sort of perspective on the AAU culture, high school basketball culture around elite level talent right now?
Yeah. Right now it's crazy. It's a lot of different. It's like it's so many like leagues and stuff. I'll try to look at it. Maybe having these different leagues and stuff. I'm just like, I don't really understand the point, because it used to be Nike circuit, Adidas circuit, Under Armour circuit. You find a team and you play on that. Now it's crazy. I think it's now like the high school teams are like part of the circuit now. So
Playing on national TV, and like
yeah,
they have a
it's
national
crazy.
TV package. It's not just for LeBron, like when I was in high school.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I feel like it's good to put more of an emphasis on the high school part of the kids, but then at the same time, it gets very toxic, because a lot of these kids are starting to get handlers and all this stuff, and it's like it kind of takes out the fun in the basketball at a high school level, where it should still be fun for you, still for fun you a little bit, like,
Yeah.
because you're in high school, you still hooping, you don't really know for real, like, you just want to hoop. And now the handler, all the money getting into it now is crazy. So I feel like it's good for the national exposure, but as far as like the other side of it is getting out of hand. It's crazy.
It's funny you say that, because I think, looking back, the reason I opted to stay at a small public school in Roanoke was because I was like, this is high school. Like, I
Yeah,
know at that time when I started getting recruited by some of these schools, I was established on the AU circuit, and I was just like, I know I'm going to play at Duke. I I actually want to just enjoy, like, having a normal high school experience. Because
exactly.
at Oak Hill, you guys traveled a ton. I'm
Man,
assuming
college schedule.
class probably took
College schedule.
class probably took a backseat. Is that fair? Hey,
Good. It's good enough.
yeah, good enough. You qualified. You played at LSU.
I
You're good.
played. Always eligible. That's good.
Have you seen an impact with some of like the younger guys in the league now, like just sort of your peers in terms of this change and how they've had to adjust to being a professional based off of this versus like when he was playing?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I feel like we have more resources to be more prepared. As far as like the G League Ignite, some of the younger guys are going to the G League Ignite to get prepared for the league, and obviously some of us still want to go the college route and experience college, and still want to learn from a college aspect how to get your grades, and still the traveling aspect of it. Playing an NCAA tournament, big games. I feel like you get best of both worlds, but really the G League Ignite really it's for some kids that really want to like really go through the NBA right through that moment to have a head start, I guess. But I feel like both routes is good. College, I took the college route. It was fun for me. I enjoyed it. I came in prepared, ready.
I've heard LSU is fun. You did feel prepared
I
for
felt
the
prepared.
NBA?
I felt prepared going through college. Going to the league. Obviously, the situation I was in was kind of crazy. Coming into a team with 3 Hall of Famers, so I wasn't really expecting that. But obviously, you learn from them, and then when you get your opportunity, you can just apply everything that you learn to the game. So I feel like I was prepared. Whatever weights and all that, strength, mind. I feel like I was prepared for it.
Athletes like me know a thing or two about the importance of good hydration. And yes, I realize I am a former athlete, but I still recognize the importance of good hydration. But that's the thing about Smart Water Alkaline. It's made for anyone looking to elevate in all areas of their lives, fitness and beyond. I'm being serious. If you're looking for the good stuff, Smart Water Alkaline is it. With a premium vapor distilled bottled water with added electrolytes for a pure, crisp taste. It has a higher pH level, added antioxidants, and electrolytes for taste. So whether you're headed to the office or the gym, or you're a parent getting ready to tackle the day, or a former professional athlete turned podcaster turned fourth grade travel team coach, Smart Water Alkaline was truly made to support active lifestyles. It's everything you want from a bottled water. Pure, hydrating, and crisp. Plus, the bottle looks slick too. So do yourself a favor and be sure to grab a bottle as soon as you can. And thank me later. Smart Water Alkaline is available at a store near you. OM3 fans, I want to talk to you about my favorite craft clothing brand, Faherty. I'm really excited about this. Started by twin brothers, Alex and Mike, in 2013, the brand is now celebrating 10 years of what they're all about, making things that last, caring for people on the planet, and always spreading good vibes. I've worn Faherty for about 5 or 6 years now, and I love Faherty because they're backed by their guarantee of quality. They stand behind everything they make 100%. I'm all in on Faherty's laid-back vibe meets classic styling. And if you're new to the brand, you have to check out their iconic Legend sweater shirt. It's a must-have for the season, crafted with a fabric that's impossibly soft, endlessly versatile, and unlike any flannel shirt you've worn before. With over 1,000 5-star reviews, it's the perfect 5-star gift for yourself this season. Faherty is a family-built, values-driven, premium clothing brand meant to outfit you for life's great moments. I got myself a couple flannels for the upcoming fall season. Not only do these things look great, they are so comfortable. For listeners of the show, Faherty brand has an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order when you enter the promo code JJ at checkout. Go to fahertybrand.com/JJ and check them out. The early DNPs, the early 4 minutes to go in a game, it's a 19-point game. Cam, get in the game. Those are your 4 minutes for this week.
Boiling. Again, boiling. Mad.
Yeah, I had to live it too. You're more talented than I was, but I had to live it too my first few years. What's the hardest thing about that?
About getting in at the end? It's just
just about not know. Like when I say that, I mean not knowing night to night what your role is, what minutes you're going to play. I mean, my fourth year was the first time where I was like, all right, I'm either going to get in at the last time out in the first quarter or at 12 minutes to go in the second quarter, beginning of the second quarter. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, I know when my minutes are going to be. It took 4 years, and when I look back on it, it wasn't even like staying ready because you're a pro. Like it's kind of easy to stay ready because all you have to focus on is basketball and staying in shape and sharpening your skills and all that stuff. There's enough 3-on-3 and enough 4-on-4 with the guys who don't play that you can stay sharp.
Exactly.
I think the hardest part for me was not feeling discouraged and losing confidence because I feel like to some degree I got broken and I lost a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
It seems like you have not you have not been broken by the early experience.
Now the hardest thing for me was just sitting there thinking you might get in this game, and then you might hear some stuff. You like be ready. We gonna use you tonight, and then you like okay, you prep, you get ready, pregame warm up, you get more locked in, and you sitting there waiting. All right, you're like okay, I usually get in around this time when they do play me. So you're like okay, that time goes by. You're just sitting there still waiting. You wait for the first half really. So you're like okay, I'm wait till the second quarter. Still don't put you in. You just like. All right, man, forget it. Yeah, all right, man, forget it. And then, out of nowhere, third quarter, get in. You like, your mind's not in it, then you get in all mad because he told you he's going to get in earlier. So then you try to, I feel like that's probably the hardest part for me. Being told that you're going to get in, and then you don't get in, and they just throw you in out of nowhere. I feel like that was the hardest thing.
The mental fuckery of that.
Yes.
I love that you took us through the stages of that too, by the way.
I swear. I won't do that. It's crazy.
My last year with Stan, my last year in the league was with Stan, and we were playing a game at home, and in fairness to him, I sucked my last year. I could barely move, wasn't making shots to my normal level. And we played Milwaukee at home. And at that time, I was usually getting in last time out in the first quarter. Didn't get in. Second quarter comes, don't get in. By the time it gets to halftime, your mind is so warped and you've got a million different things. Now, it was much easier if I had gotten 4 DNPs in a row, because then there's not an injury tonight.
You feel me?
You're watching the game. There's no foul trouble. I'm not getting in. That is, for some reason, easier to deal with.
It is.
And by the way, with Stan that night, like, there was no communication. It was just like, oh, I'm getting a DNP, and he didn't tell me. Gets to the fourth quarter, I'm like, all right, I'm not playing this close game. DNP, whatever. He talked to me after. All good. I had to live it. But to live it again at year 15, dude,
that was
the
tough.
PTSD that I got.
Thinking
about my first 3 years.
Came all the way back. I know that's crazy.
Crazy.
Oh my God.
Some of it, and you guys both experienced this when you're like a truly elite collegiate scorer. Like, you're just the person who's filling up the box score every night, and then you come in and just even thinking about what it takes to get yourself in rhythm across the board, being like a 3-level scorer. If you have 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like, how are you supposed to do that? So like, is it more challenging with the position you play than if you are a hustle guy or someone who's in there for defense or rebounding or something like that?
It's a great question.
That is a great question. For me personally, I feel like mine was more situation, as far as like playing behind Kai, James, and KD. Those three are the scores of the team. So me, plus coming off the bench, obviously coming off the bench was tough. My first year, I never came off the bench in my life, so I had to figure out a routine for me to stay ready to come in and impact the game in some type of way. I feel like it's more for me, it was more situation and, how our team was set up for me to, for something like that. So mine was more situational.
Yeah. I would say in a blowout situation where, and this is back when teams didn't shoot 43s a night. Like, if it was a 19-point game at the beginning of the fourth, like, a lot of times, because the games were low scoring. Like, it would be 81-64 going into the fourth, 77-58. You're like, all right, I'm going to play most, if not all of this fourth quarter. So it's a little bit easier to catch a rhythm. The ones that fucked me up were the end of the first half. Somebody's got 2 fouls. Somebody's got 3 fouls. We're already down a man because we're injured, and it's a minute 10 to go, and it's like, go in the game. Those are the ones that fucked me up.
Yeah.
I think a little bit early on, BJ Armstrong told me, he's like, 2 things. He's like, whatever minutes you get, you got to own them.
Yeah.
The second thing he says is, because he had dinner with me after a game where I played like 3 minutes at the end of the game and I didn't shoot. He's like, how can you find out if you're on fire if you don't shoot? You got to find out if you're on fire tonight. Yeah. So you got to get him up. So I was like, okay.
I definitely did that some games. I get it. I definitely did that some
just
games.
No. Go to your package, Cam. Go to your package.
Nah, I'm good.
There's all these memories coming back. The other one that really got me was my second year. So my first year with Stan, we played Toronto in the first round. And we ended up losing to Detroit in the second round. Played Toronto in the first round. And this had to have been game 3 or game 4 because we were in Toronto. We won the series 4-1. I think it was game 3 because it was the one we lost. So game 3, we're losing. It's not going well. It's probably an 11-point game. End of the third. Haven't played all series. Stan comes to me. He's like, "You're going in." I was like, "Sweet." So my mind works like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to hit a couple threes. It's going to be great. I'm going to provide some energy. We get back in this thing. And we're waiting for the timeout to end. And I'm standing at the scorer's table. And he walks up to me and he says, "Don't try and be a hero."
Like, what? What'd she just say?
What?
Why not?
I wanted to ask you, because I've asked, we've had some Brooklyn Nets games, and I wanted to ask him about just the communication with Jacques specifically, because I look at him as like your coach pretty much the whole time because of how early this Steve thing happened. But in terms of the communication, like early with Jacques, when it was back and forth versus end of last season, this season, like how has that evolved? Is it a two-way thing? Do you go to him? Does he come to you? Like, what is that sort of balance like with Jacques and in terms of your minutes and what he's asking of you, just besides the scoring?
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten better. Or as far as me talking to him, it's gotten better. Like we got a better relationship now. As far as I can go up to him. He can come to me and talk. As far as like the communication, asking what he wants of you. Me asking like stuff of him, obviously stuff like that. I feel like communication is great.
Did you go to him last season at any point and be like, "Jacques, what do I got to do? What do I got to do to earn consistent minutes?"
I felt like at one point, we was on the road, but we was home about to go on the road. We had like a little stretch against San Antonio, Phoenix, and I was just frustrated because I'm like, okay, I think Kai was out, and and KD was out. So I was like, I should be playing. Like, I can help the team as far as like filling the scoring void. So I think I didn't play the game before, or I played a little bit, and then he just took me out, and I was just, I was frustrated. I'm like, I can help the team right now. Like, we don't really have no scoring out here for real. So, I was a little frustrated. Then we communicated, and I played in the San Antonio game. I played a good amount of the San Antonio game. Had a good game. Played in the Phoenix game. Had a good game. So that's when it kept going. So I feel like that communication part of it is big. So I'll just keep doing it with him. He'll keep doing it with me. So
I feel like it's an important lesson to learn because as a player, we oftentimes, I don't know your environment, but oftentimes like we grow up and the coach is such a person of authority.
Yeah.
And I think in the NBA that still is true.
Yeah.
It's not that, but the gap.
Yeah.
Right. We're almost peers.
Yeah.
And so I think taking a little ownership on our part in terms of communicating, and I had to learn how to do that.
Me too.
For sure. And then once I learned it with Stan, it was easy. It just was natural the rest of my time,
Me too, yeah.
But I think I really believe that it's an important step because number one, I think what we lose sight of as irrationally confident human beings, and I would say most NBA players are irrationally confident human beings. What we lose sight of is the coach has got to worry about 14 other guys, and the coach has got to worry about the training staff report and what the front office want. It's a lot of management, and it's not just about, as my dad used to always say, it's not just about you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, at that moment you're like,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, he does. Like, we do have 13 other guys. They probably feel the same way, whoever. So, sometimes you just got to take yourself out of the situation and just look at it from their perspective. So that's what I really learned from it.
Would you learn from the 3 Hall of Famers?
I learned. I really learned a lot, like off the court. Really learned a lot, honestly, especially from Kai. That's still my brother to this day.
Was there anything in their offensive bag that you took?
Nah, I mean, I can't really take nothing from K. He's 7 foot. I can't really take nothing from him. He's 7 foot. Only thing I can take is his post ups.
Yeah,
but he's 7 foot. He can just shoot over you. From Kai, I really just try to develop finishing with both hands. I had a good left hand, but his is out of this world. So I really just try to work on that. more and more summer by summer. So I definitely learned, finishing with both hands from Cav for sure.
As I mentioned earlier, Cam was the EYBL scoring champ. Averaged 23 a game as a freshman at LSU. Currently averaging 27 in the NBA. You've always been a bucket. The stretch last year, Kevin's out, requests a trade. Kai eventually requests a trade. Guys are now down a few, and you get those 3 games in a row where you have 40 straight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was the meaning of that to you? And then also, just like, were there any crazy reactions, either from fans or people in your orbit or people in the basketball community, and that you were just like taken aback by?
It was a special moment, honestly, because I think we played Boston the game before on TV. They watched us by like 30, 40. And then the morning of the Wizards game, we had shoot around and Kai wasn't there. So I thought he had something going on. Everybody called, said he'll be at the gym later. And then he wasn't there. I was just like, okay, this is different. Okay. And then it was like, he's going to be out. I looked at the injury report. It was like, he's out. So I was like, oh, yeah, I really know I was going to play that game for sure. So came off the bench, we started off slow. We was losing by 20 to them too. So, at that point, you just try to like do whatever you can, keep the game close. And then when the league kept going down, you're like, okay, we got a chance to win. So, I started cooking and then had 44 that game and 47 against Clippers and 43 against the Suns. The reaction is always crazy. The reaction was crazy this year when I'm just scoring 30 to start the season, 40. Like, obviously being in New York, all the reactions are crazy on social media and stuff. You see a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So
I feel like you get a lot of, particularly this year. Like, it was a big deal last February when that happened. But to start the season, there was some Cam Thomas buzz across the national social media accounts. It wasn't just local to New York.
Yeah.
People seem to really gravitate towards your ability to put a round leather ball in a orange hoop.
Yeah. I think they love to see it. I think I'm just a lot of entertainment for it. That's why they enjoy
It's
it.
because it looks so difficult, but you do.
Yeah, I heard that before too. I make it look easy, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Also, you look up if you're at the game or you're watching it and you're not paying attention closely, and you look up and all of a sudden you have like 38.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just like, oh, I didn't like. I thought he was playing well, but like,
yeah. I know he was.
Was the game your rookie year against the Knicks where you guys came back? Was that kind of like the first one of these for you?
Yeah, for sure. That game obviously is like number one on my list because we was down again by like 20 the whole game. Then we came back in the fourth because we was on a losing streak before that, like a long losing streak. Then we had to trade with James, and then we started getting a little traction, little wins with Seth, Seth Drum and those guys. So that was really a good thing. But that game was really like top of my list because of how the situation was in the Garden.
Yeah.
20-point comeback, game winner technically at the end. So that's really number on my list.
Just being like,
yeah, they was hurt.
What the fuck is going on?
It was hurt.
This guy
I heard a lot of Brooklyn fans in there, actually. I heard a lot of Brooklyn fans in there. So that was cool. But that's definitely number one on my list.
It's always nice to hit a game winner at the Garden, as
Yeah.
Devin Booker found out last night. Cam, how much do you, this is going to sound really weird, but I'm sorry, I'm going to ask it. How much do you work on your lower body? And like, have you always had this level of strength and power and elevation on your shot? Like, even going back to high school?
Yeah. Obviously, now I kind of toned it down a little bit, but obviously I'm still strong. But really, I really gained that strength during like high school and college. Because in high school, I wanted to dunk. So that's where it really came from. I was really doing a lot of squats, leg stuff. I wanted to dunk. So that's really where I got it from. But as far as the elevation on my jump shot, honestly, I don't feel like I be jumping high. When I shoot, I'm like,
you don't feel like you
I
jump high.
don't feel like I jump high. You know, my mom be like, jump. I feel like I am jumping. I feel like I am jumping. But, that's really where it came from. But I really had the elevation on my jump shot about 11th grade. That's when I really started like shooting over people. Because, 9th and 10th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, I tried to shoot like wide open. Like if I want wide open, then I couldn't really shoot. I wasn't shooting over nobody. But really like 11th, 12th in college, I really learned the ability to shoot over people. And that's because, getting left on my shot. So
The reason I ask is, we bring up the deep three a lot. And every time we bring it up, it's like the same guy, like Vince Carter, who, by the way, could shoot his normal shot from half court. But Vince didn't really jump on his three.
mhm.
Trey doesn't really jump on his three.
Nah.
She shoots on the way up. Steph shoots on the way up. And Dame shoots a palm ball.
Yeah.
And he doesn't also elevate and shoot at the top. You're the only guy that I can think of. Maybe there's more. Please reply in the comments. I'm wrong all the time. But you're the only guy I can think of that actually uses all of his lower body,
Yeah.
elevates and shoots at the top, and
Yeah.
can do that on a step back from 30 feet.
Mhm.
It's actually one of the most remarkable athletic achievements I can think of. I don't think people realize how hard that is
No,
to
seriously.
actually elevate and shoot at the top from that far away.
Seriously, it's hard. It's hard for sure. I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, I worked on that step back so much because I did learn that from James. I didn't learn that on the team, but I learned it like before during college and stuff, doing the step back three. Because when he was in Houston, he was using it all the time and cooking people. So I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do it. So that's where I really learned it from. So I was like, I'm gonna just work on this because it's unstoppable. You can't guard it really. You can't block it. You get too close, it's a foul. So that's really where I learned it from. So I credit to him for that. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough shot.
The mindset, you mentioned that earlier. I think you said something along the lines of that's when I got the mindset was in high school.
Mhm.
The mindset to be a scorer
Mhm.
At the level you can, which is truthfully a lot of self-creation.
Yeah.
It's a lot of self-creation the way you do it.
Yeah.
What is your mindset within the game? Check in, you've got a mindset.
Mhm.
You get the ball, you've got a mindset. Like, take me through what you're thinking out there. Maybe you're not thinking. Maybe it's all natural. I don't know. But take me through what you're thinking about as you're creating these shots for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely natural. But I really try to think about how, obviously all teams have schemes, defensive schemes, and how they play. So I really get in. That's why I start thinking about, like, how are they going to guard me? So come off. Well, everybody does pick and roll. So that's really the main thing. You want to see how they guard your pick and roll. Come off. Are they switching? If they're switching, then you're going to have a lot of ISO 101s. So me, for me personally, it's a lot of ISO 101s, getting to the basket, getting fouled. But then, most teams, if they're in drop, I'm going to have a lot of mid-range tonight. So try to work on that, your mid-range the whole game. Or, drop, big set the screen, hold the screen, threes, whatever you want. So I really just try to look at how the other team is guarding us when I come in, when the team is guarding us. So, it's easy for me. So I know what shots I'm getting. So I know, like, how efficient I can be that night on those shots. Because, you never know how many shots you're going to get. Especially my first 2 years, you never know. So you try to be efficient as possible. I get 5 shots. I want to make at least 3, 4. Right. So I really just try to be focused and keen in on how the other team is going to guard us. So
I like that.
Can you tell, getting back to the thing about sort of coming off the bench, can you tell if when you were coming off the bench, how they're defending these things from the bench, or do you kind of have to be in it to really sort of understand it?
You can see it, but obviously,
well, now Cam has a game plan.
Yeah.
Like, now he's
There's a difference.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference where he's you'll probably, this year, let's say you and Mikkel,
Yeah.
number 1, number 2, depending on the night,
Yeah.
on the game plan for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between that and
Yeah.
when you're playing on a team with Kyrie.
Exactly.
KD,
That's why I said my buckets are a lot easier my first 2 years. My buckets were a lot easier. But it's really it's different from, like you said, the game plan and just coming in free. Because then obviously some teams have a different scheme for you. Obviously, my first year, my 3-ball was down. I didn't shoot 3 well my first year. So most teams would try to go under and meet me on the mid range. So, and then my second year, my 3 went up. So teams were chasing me over and not giving me as many threes. So I had to get to the mid range and floater a lot. And this year they're mixing it up a little bit, switching, going under, going under, going over. So it's really I really like the balance I have when I come in or when I start, whatever it is. So I feel like me having that balance on the game plan is easy because they can't just like tell you to do one thing the whole night and then you're mess up the whole night. So I feel like having that balance on all 3 levels is good. So obviously the going over, going under, and ISO, so it's good.
Do you have 2 questions? Do you have other young guys around the league you particularly like to watch score in particular? And then the second question is just about defensively. Are there guys who defend you really well that you think are, I think we know Drew, we know some of these guys are like sort of the best guys in the league who are a little underrated.
You guys get buckets really well. Shea, I like watching Shea play. Book, obviously. Book. Tyrese Maxey getting buckets this year. Shout out to him. It's a lot of good young bucket getters. Obviously, I feel like I'm number 1. You have to feel like that. But there's a lot of good young bucket getters.
Confidence. Yeah.
You always got to have, confidence in that aspect. And what was the second question?
Defensively, like who do you feel like when you're playing them when you have them the next night they're gonna just guard you tough?
Yeah, this year when we played Boston at home. Drew was solid. He didn't really go for many of my fakes on a pump fake, so I had to shoot over him a little bit. And just try to stay as poised as I can. Get screens because he's a solid defender, so you just have to like don't want to overdo it, force it because that's where you get in trouble because he has good hands, quick hands, and just turns a lot of turnovers. So you just try to like be as calm as you can because obviously it's tough. Great defender, he's not gonna go for your fakes, so you just gotta stay poised and just rise up and fire and knock it down.
Cam, I think you've established that you can score the basketball, and as you look towards returning to the court the rest of this season, your next 3 or 4 years in the NBA, what's your focus on in terms of your own growth as a player? Where do you feel like you're making strides, and where do you feel like you still have to make some strides?
Yeah, I definitely made strides on the defensive end this year. That was a big emphasis for us in the summer, coming into training camp, where our scheme is. So I feel like this year I made a lot of strides on that end. And obviously, I can keep growing as the playmaking aspect. I feel like it's kind of tough because on our team, we have Ben, Spence. We have the ball handlers and playmakers, and then I'm still in the aspect of scoring. But obviously, you know, I want to be, I wouldn't say point guard, but obviously be the guy bringing the ball up and stuff like that. I have to, at a point in time, it's going to be turn into that. Obviously, with some of the lineups we have, when Spencer's out and Ben's out right now, so when I come back, probably be some lineups when I'm the point guard. So just want to keep making good reads. And keep improving in that aspect. So, I just want to keep improving in that.
I think with your team specific. Specifically, I think that part of it, and this is not. This is not a knock on Sean Marks or Jacques Vaughn at all. I think that part of, I think is probably a little hard for you because of the way this team is constructed and the way the team was constructed around Kevin and Kai, which was a lot of shooting. And I'm the biggest Nick Claxton fan in the world, but in terms of like a pick and roll partnership, you're not playing pick and roll with Joel. You're not playing pick and roll with Jokic or whatever. So I think the playmaking part is just naturally a little more difficult, particularly if Ben and Spencer are in the lineup, because then it becomes, well, now I've got to switch into scoring mode, and there's not necessarily like the 2-man game where you can create opportunities for other guys that you might have on other teams. And again, I love Nick Claxton. Big fan.
My guy.
Big fan.
My guy. No, it's definitely tough because, like I said, when you have Ben and Spence, they flip-flop the lineup sometimes. So then, I'm always in the game with one of them, and they're like, the point guard, bringing it up, running the offense. So it's like, okay, you want to be another playmaker, or you want to be the scorer in this group? Because sometimes it's just me and Spence, or just me and Ben, and Mikhail's on the, Mikhail's sitting down getting a break. So it's like, okay, I have to score with this lineup right here, or this lineup, when it's Ben, me, Mikhail, or Spence, you can, make the extra pass a little bit. So it's just it's kind of tough, but you just got to make the read as a player, see how the game is flowing, see how we're doing on offense, see what we need at that time. So.
Do you ever criticize your own shot selection?
Honestly, yeah. But I feel like I can make it. So I'll be like, oh. So when I shoot, I'll be like, maybe that was a bad shot.
This is why I asked the question.
Because sometimes I'm like, maybe that was a bad shot. But I was like, I worked on it. I could have went in. Then I'm like, all right, wash it.
The reason I ask the question is because I feel like people that score tough buckets, they really believe that every shot they take is going to go in.
I swear I do.
So there's no such thing as a bad shot in some ways. And then, maybe you watch film later with a coach and you're like, you see what you could have done here.
Yeah.
You see what you could have done.
I'm like, I could have went to the basket, but I'm like.
But I feel like you get grenades too. You know
what
grenades are?
Grenades.
Yeah.
I get a lot of grenades.
Yeah. Grenades, for anybody, is when there's like 5 or 6 seconds on the shot clock and the ball is in Love Royce O'Neal. The ball's in Royce O'Neal's hands, and Royce is like, you know what? Cam has a better chance to create a good shot right here. I'm going to throw it to him with 4 seconds.
I get a lot of grenades.
That's a grenade.
Bro, I'm like, when y'all see like how many shots I take, I'm like, okay, at least 3 or 4 of those are grenades.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't really judge that unless you watch the game. You're like, oh, okay. Like, he may have shot 20 shots, but at least 4 of those were grenades that I had to put up.
It's a fact.
To the alternative, do you ever have a shot where you can't believe that it went in?
No. Really, some of my finishes, though. I have crazy finishes sometimes. So I'm like,
there were some in that Bucks game.
Yeah.
Even just like from the mid range that were crazy.
Yeah.
That were like finishes, and also even these like 10-footers where it's like you couldn't even believe you got it off.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, the deep 3 I made, against Dame, when I hit the long 3 at half court, I was surprised that went in because it was another grenade.
It was a grenade.
Another grenade. So I'm just like, oh man, I got fired. And once it went in, that's why I stood out. I was like, oh man, thank God that went in. And I just ran back.
You know what you do? I will say this though. Teams need guys that are willing to take the grenade and fall on them. I loved playing with Jamal Crawford. He was like, pass me all the grenades. Because he's, another rationally confident guy. He's like, I think I can make any shot at the end of a shot clock. And Jamal would take it a step further. Jamal was one of those guys like Steph. Who, if he got the ball with a second to go and he's at 3/4 court, he's trying to actually get the shot off.
I'm like that too sometimes. I'm like that.
So to your point, I always felt like I'm always like looking at Jamal's shooting percentages. Then I'd be like, yeah, but you know what? He had 3 grenades. He took a shot at the end of the first. He took a shot at the end of the third.
Thank you. It's like 3, 4 shots. He's like, okay, it's tough. He shot a grenade. grenade from half court. Then he's shooting at 3/4 court. So that's at least 4 misses potentially. That's on your stats. So it messes up your stats a little bit, but it doesn't matter.
It does mess them up. I real quick, I thought of this. We were playing in Phoenix when I was with Philly, and we used to all, and I was probably particularly bad about it, but we used to all get mad at TJ McConnell when he would pass up open threes because he just really did not feel comfortable shooting threes.
Really?
And I would get on him and I'll just be like, dude, that's the shot that the offense created. We're not going to get a better shot. You have to fucking shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's an unbelievable mid-range shooter, great free throw shooter. For whatever reason, he wants to shoot a set shot from three that looks like he's taking a shit. The weirdest form I've ever seen because he gets so much elevation on his mid-range.
He does.
So we're in Phoenix, and we had that. But then we had that movement offense. Everybody's touching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
We work it side to side. End of the shot clock. They swing it to TJ in the corner. It takes about 3 seconds to decide whether or not to shoot it. Gets down in a squatted position, and then at the last second swings me the ball with like 1.7, and I throw up some bullshit that doesn't hit the rim. TJ was like my little brother. I was joking, and I got on him about throwing me the grenade. Devin Booker said to TJ, he goes, JJ, what a loser. That's not winning basketball. No, Devin. I'm only kidding because it's TJ.
Yeah, I'm only kidding because this is my guy.
Who are your? I don't even know if this is the term, but for now, who are your like top 5 grenade launchers in the league right now? So Jamal doesn't count.
Oh,
you can't be in it. It's obvious.
Top 5 grenade launchers. Jordan Clarkson, for sure.
Steph in there?
Yeah, Steph. I'd put Donovan Mitchell in there. He seems more than willing to accept. It sucks because you eliminated Cam from the conversation.
I was saying, I get
you're like 1A behind.
Jordan's probably the best example.
Though. Would you consider Quickly in that?
He just seems excited to shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's excited.
Some of it probably is like how the offense is set up though. Like you were talking about the Nets offense versus some teams may not need it.
Yeah.
Need that role as much.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like for us, it's some possessions where we move the ball a lot. We're going to get a shot up. And then, we all look like it's 5 seconds left. We're like, oh, crap, we got to get a shot up. And then, and the ball just finds me at that point. So I'm like, okay, I got to hurry up and create something. I feel like most teams do need that guy to be able to create something out of nothing. But obviously some teams, can get away with it without having it. But it's just based off your personnel, I feel like.
I mean, Kevin Durant is another example of a grenade taker. But some of the stuff with you guys, like, because I watch you guys a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the stuff with your offense is because you switch on defense. Like you have lineups on the court, even when Nick is out.
Yeah.
If Dayron's not in the game, you guys might play small.
Mm-hmm.
You're switching everything. Teams may adjust to that and put 5 guys out that can switch.
Mm-hmm.
So like the movement kind of gets bogged down, especially like later in quarters and particularly late game, where now all of a sudden it just becomes about ISO. And I asked Jacques about this last game I had. I was like, want to play so much ISO? Because you guys are number one in the league in ISO. I think it was right before the Boston game 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was like, do you want to play it? He's like, no, not really. I don't. It just happens. And I think some of that is because of the lineups you put out for defensive purposes. Teams then just switch everything when you guys are on offense.
Exactly.
And it kind of bogs things down a little bit. Exactly. You're like, all right, we got a matchup. Let's go ISO. Let's ISO hunt.
Yeah. Honestly, anybody kind of goes through that, especially the teams with the top scores. Even when we play Boston, they was even doing the ISO game to pick on game. So I feel like it just depends on the game because obviously some teams we can't really do that on. Like Miami, they're good in the half court, they load up. So that game is more movement, more passing, more ball movement, getting a shot. But some teams, 1 through 5 everything, then it just turns into, okay, I got a big on me. Get the space in. That's probably the best matchup we got. A guard on the big, we can get by him, get foul, or drive and kick, find a play for one of our shooters. So I feel like it depends on the game, really the team we're playing in game. So I feel like that's more. So.
Yeah. Okay, Cam, last question. The Roback question. Reminder to our viewers, you can use the code OLD on roback.com for 20% off your first purchase, RHOBACK.com, code OLD. Cam, been in the league now, a few years. You've had some success scoring. Curious about your overall personal goals as an NBA player, what your aspirations are, what your ceiling is in your mind, and how do you go about achieving it?
I feel like I don't really look into me having a ceiling for real. I just try to, get better every day, on and off the court as a person. That's really the main thing. But what I say all the time is, just playing this year. Just continue to play, being in a rotation, playing. That's really the goal this year. Whatever happens when I'm out there. I produce. I'm productive when I am out there. So just staying in a rotation as much as I can and just, staying productive, staying consistent. So that's really my goal for this year.
I like that. It's a great answer. Cam, we appreciate it. It's been great, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, boys, let's talk about the T-Wolves, who have been fantastic this year, of course, and I really want to talk about the defense. We will get to the offense, but it's going to be a lot of defense. Also, Ant just had a small injury. It doesn't seem like it's really that concerning, but he might be out for a little bit. The first general points to make before we get into more detailed stuff, Rudy Gobert is all the way back. I think he ended up being underrated defensively by the end of last year, but even so, the back injury was slowing him down a little bit. Not the case this year. Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert's back, and of the recent games I watched from them, the one against the Knicks was the most striking with the number of times. It was like RJ or Randall, especially, were just passing out of drives because Rudy was just existing near the rim. And on top of that, they currently lead the league in mid-range attempts by opponents, which that's definitely by design. When you look at Rudy Gobert playing drop defense, but that's not the only thing that's going on with this scheme. They are allowing like Anthony Edwards and I mean Jaden McDaniels has been out for the past few games, so it's been more Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but they're allowing, I say that Chris Finch is allowing, those guys to be a little more aggressive. Cat has had moments of like more aggressiveness. Kyle Anderson has had more like opportune double teams and stuff. Like it's kind of a mix of Rudy in the middle, and even then, Rudy is sometimes upping the aggressiveness, and we'll get to that. And then everybody else either upping or sometimes lowering the aggression depending on the opponent, how the game's going, whatever. And so I'll give you an example. Their recent win against the Thunder, which was just a great game overall, but there were so many times where Rudy was helping off of, let's say, Jalen Williams, big Jalen Williams, not J Dub. He's helping off of him. And then if the ball ends up back in Jalen Williams' hands, it's like Kyle Anderson or Edwards or whoever's closest to him are the ones who like actually close out to him. And then it'll be like Rudy then effectively starts helping off of their guy. And this was happening even sometimes when it'd be like Isaiah Joe, who's a fantastic shooter. Like there was a play where Isaiah Joe and Chet were kind of too close to each other on the wing in the corner. And you could see Isaiah Joe telling Chet, like, hey, like, go farther up because Rudy's going to help off of us and Kyle Anderson's going to effectively guard both of us at the same time on the wing, which is exactly what happened. Now, to be clear, Rudy still has to close out on guys sometimes, and he's doing a good job of that. He's doing a good job of everything defensively right now. I'm sure people have seen by now, Rudy locking up Chet on that one possession late in that OKC game. But also in that OKC game, like you had plays where Edwards was just hard helping off of Giddey, like from the wing or the corner, which that's the type of thing where I think when Rudy first got there, the chemistry wasn't totally there. The timing wasn't always there of like, how aggressive can I be with Rudy dropping back, you know? I mean, you can see another example of that in like the first quarter of their last one against the Sixers. Joel Embiid was not playing, so that gave him a bit of a break. But I mean, you've got like a Maxey Paul Reed pick and roll up top. Anthony Edwards is helping really hard off of Daniel House, and then it becomes like Edwards closes out to House, and then he drives, and then Rudy's waiting for him at the rim, and nobody's scoring over Rudy right now. And throughout all of this, you've had, at least lately, Nickeil Alexander-Walker just pressuring ball handlers. I mean, he's picking up like Tyrese Maxey at half court or Jalen Brunson around half court. Of course, when Jaden McDaniels is in the game, he's the one doing all that. You know, he was on Brandon Ingram a lot in their Pelicans win. And, you know, talking about that Pelicans game, they started out with like Rudy dropping back on screens, and especially like in that fourth quarter, Valanciunas is hitting them with like pick and pops around the free throw line, which like it's Valanciunas, you're daring him to make jumpers, but okay, he was making them. And eventually they said, screw it, let's just play more aggressively. You had like Anthony Edwards and Kyle Anderson double teaming Brandon Ingram off of screens. You had Rudy high hedging on like one Brandon Ingram like wing pick and roll that results in like Ingram pushing off of him. It's an offensive foul. You had Cat switching onto Ingram like very early in a possession. But again, it's a sometimes more aggressive scheme. I mean, you're definitely going to get your possession like last night against the Jazz, where it's a Keontae George pick and roll up top. It's Rudy dropping, and they're just kind of daring him to make a pull up two or a floater or whatever, you know? And to talk about Cat specifically, I mean, the dude just looks great. You know, whether it's like the one-on-one defense he had in their recent one against the Jazz, like on John Collins, that was just super solid. Or if I can reference that OKC game again, I mean, there was one play where like he is helping very hard off of Cason Wallace, who was wide open in the corner. This is with Rudy not in the game, and Cat in like 1 second goes from the paint to the 3-point line to close out to Cason Wallace because he got the skip pass from I want to say it was SGA. And then after he ends up passing it out, he then gets back to the paint and contests Jalen Williams at the rim. And just in general, they've had a lot of moments of getting decently aggressive with helping off of guys, and then it's like, well, we're going to pass to that guy, and then someone's going to run him off the line, and then they got one or two bigs just waiting for him, whether it's Rudy or Cat or Naz Reid as well, playing with either one of those guys. Like, it's just good stuff. And then, you know, the ball pressure of Alexander Walker picking guys up earlier, Jaden McDaniels, and he's in there. Now, I will say in their recent loss to the Kings, you did see what can be the other side of that, where the Kings went nuts from three, and the Wolves had like a tough time getting around screens, or it was just miscommunications or a second too late, or like Troy Brown Jr. is over helping off of Kevin Huerter in the corner or whatever, or there's like a little too much scrambling going on after an offensive rebound. So that is the one sort of downside to this slightly at times more aggressive defense. That was a similar thing in their loss to the Suns, where the Suns went nuts from three on them in that one. But when it's working and you've got Rudy back there and Cat who's on his best defensively, like it's just kind of terrifying with what you're supposed to do as an offense against it. To give you some numbers, they are 15th in opponent 3-point attempts per game. I would say that about tracks towards the bottom of the league in opponent shots at the rim per game. That's a Rudy Gobert special. Also first in opponent mid-range attempts per game. Also a Rudy Gobert special. Anyway, if we could talk about the offense for a bit. I said many nice things about Mike Conley in the role player video, so I won't take too long here, but I'll just say again, obviously he doesn't do this as much as he used to, but he's still able to get within the 3-point line enough to shift the defense and make the next play for guys, as opposed to just only floating around the perimeter, fighting defensively, and then he's just the perfect decision maker for these guys. My favorite thing that they do on offense is when they have a Rudy and Cat horns action. And so then it'll be like Conley or Edwards getting a screen from one of them. And then from there, they can kind of do a million things. It can be Rudy on the roll. It could be Cat popping. But also sometimes if the initial action doesn't lead to anything, Cat will then use Rudy's screen, because Rudy will stay in the screen for a second longer. And sometimes that can lead to a pop, or then it's Cat driving off of that. You know, it's a simple action that does get him a lot of stuff. And to speak on Cat specifically, I think the physical drives are my favorite thing about him. And I mean, that's not to say he's not going to shoot jump shots and stuff. Obviously, he is. And the biggest example of this lately being probably that game winner he had over Dyson Daniels in the Pelicans game, where, I mean, Conley just set him a screen beforehand to force the switch, and then from there it was just a weight advantage. But hell, just a small example for you, like their recent one against the Grizzlies, which, I mean, yeah, everybody's beating the Grizzlies right now, but okay, you won the game you were supposed to. One of his early buckets is he screens for Conley, gets the Aldama switch. He has pretty much the entire middle of the floor to do what he wants with it, puts his shoulder into him, and then before you know, we're at the rim. And then as far as Ant, I mean, I've already said many things about his mid-range shooting this year, and look, with Ant, he's going to take contested jump shots. We all know this. I think the biggest thing with the Wolves is keeping him involved in some actual sets as much as you can, even if it's just a simple wing pick and roll with Rudy Gobert. Or it's a double screen with the two bigs, or it's a DHO with one of them. Whatever it is, just make sure Ant is doing enough of that, because while, yes, he can make those contested jumpers, and he has been, and he can win you any game with that, you also want to make his job as easy as possible on offense. Of course, Kyle Anderson fits into all this on both sides of the floor, and he remains one of the better passing wings in the league. It's always fun to watch Naz Reid like close the distance that someone might be giving him with, a dribble, then putting his shoulder into him, or just shooting the three. So yeah, I think the rest of this season is about maximizing this offense. I mean, right now they're 19th in offense and they're first in defense. If they can get to, let's say, 10th in offense and then first in defense, then that model suggests very good things for the playoffs. So I think that's the big thing for them.
We're in the state of Georgia, which is SEC country. And joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, a man who stared the Big Ten, the Ivy League, the Pac-12, and many others right in the face as COVID was starting and saying, we play football down here. A man who made me say football, Greg Sankey. That's how we told the story, and don't change it.
Okay.
Please,
We need to go back to the pilot thing, too, because I'm with you.
What's that?
I ask the guys when I get on an airplane, like a small jet, have you flown upside down before? And they look at me and they're like, why are you asking that? I said, because if it happens today, I don't want it to be the first time.
Exactly. Hey, you're right. I don't mind military folks flying. I appreciate military folks, need them up there. But I think people look at me, they see the tank top, they hear I'm loud and crazy, this guy, and they're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and give him a ride up here. I'm like, yo, I just need to get back on the ground. You know what I mean? I just need to get back on the ground. We're on the ground right now in the night before a massive event for your conference. This has become almost like a pseudo tradition. Come down here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and obviously game days here. And normally there's definitely a college football playoff spot on the line. You've had to have heard the conversations that have been taking place. Allegedly, now I don't agree with this, right, boys? Boys, we don't.
No.
We don't agree with this.
No, we don't.
We don't agree with this.
No.
But they're saying there's a chance, if Alabama wins this tomorrow over Georgia, that there'll be no SEC representative in a college football playoff. First of all, do you see that being a reality? And what would the conference's reaction be to that type of situation?
As I recall, the line, they're saying there's a chance came from Dumb and Dumber, which may be a good description of that observation. You know, people who know and understand football don't have a doubt about our status. And you can look this year, sure, we lost some non-conference games, but this is not a week evaluation, a 1 week evaluation. This is a season evaluation. And you watch how teams perform, how they improve, how they win big games, how they win close games, how they figure it out. And I think the winner of this game tomorrow, in fact, both teams, depending on the outcome, will be fully under consideration. The beauty of playing these games and the reason there's so much interest is, as I look at all the analytics, this is like the one conference championship game where there's a lot of doubt. Who's going to win? It's going to be intense, competitive. There's a lot on the line. But no matter what comes, we deserve at least one team in the college football playoff. We've proven that this year in the last 9. There shouldn't be any confusion about that. And, you know, we'll see how it goes.
I'll be excited to hear you and everybody else from the SEC if that is to take place. So you're saying there's a chance, obviously 1 in a million. That is something that has been chatted about. Just because the amount of fodder that happens around college football as a whole, especially down here in the South. Now, speaking of down here in the South, Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. This is becoming a beautiful thing for the SEC. What are your thoughts on the fact that maybe the 2 greatest college coaches of all time are currently in your conference? And what are your thoughts on Saban and Kirby knowing each other so well and this becoming almost a yearly thing?
It makes the fact they know each other so well makes our coaches show tonight much more interesting because there's stories that come out of the vault that you never imagined.
What is the coaches show? What is the coaches show?
We do that on the SEC network, so we'll interview both coaches. They each get a little bit of individual time, then you combine them to talk about the game.
Oh, really? That sounds great. What's
Laura,
that on?
Laura hosts SEC network, 611 on DirecTV, and I haven't figured it out yet on YouTube TV, but it's there.
It is.
I found it. I've modernized. So I just have, I don't know are there numbers on YouTube TV?
No.
Shouldn't be any confusion about that, and we'll see how it goes.
I'll be excited to hear you and everybody else from the SEC if that is to take place. So you're saying there's a chance, obviously 1 in a million. That is something that has been chatted about just because the amount of fodder that happens around college football as a whole, especially down here in the South. Now, speaking of down here in the South, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. This is becoming a beautiful thing for the SEC. What are your thoughts on the fact that maybe the 2 greatest college coaches of all time are currently in your conference? And what are your thoughts on Saban and Kirby knowing each other so well and this becoming almost a yearly thing?
It makes the fact they know each other so well makes our coaches show tonight much more interesting because there's stories that come out of the vault that you never imagined.
What is the coaches show? What is the coaches show?
We do that on the SEC network, so we'll interview both coaches. They each get a little bit of individual time, then you combine them to talk about the game.
Oh, really? That sounds great. What's
Laura,
that on?
Laura hosts SEC network, 611 on DirecTV, and I haven't figured it out yet on YouTube TV, but it's there.
It is.
I found it. I've modernized, so I just have, I don't know are there numbers on YouTube TV?
No, it's just alphabetical, I think. Town, you're a big Town. I know you have a question for a second, but you're also YouTube TV.
It goes like the traditional ABC, NBC, stuff like that, and then it gets into the sports networks. It's right in the middle there, right in the juicy middle. It's in a great spot.
Okay, perfect. What do you got for Big Shanky, Tone?
Yeah, Commish, we've been talking a lot this year, like when the NCAA rules, like in the Tez Walker situation or in a Harbaugh situation where they make a ruling, what if the team or the coach were to just say no? Does the NCAA have the power there? Does the conference have the power there? Like, does the NCAA can you as the SEC just be like, hey, don't listen to the NCAA, just play this kid, like it's fine? Like, how does that work?
Well, you render yourself ineligible for whatever there. So the conference made a decision. There was a lot of conversation about court activity, and that happens across college athletics. Depending on the court order, whether somebody plays or not, when somebody's just ineligible, the advice is always going to be don't play because you're going to either vacate that game or lose the eligibility for your team.
Okay.
That's like the direct bureaucratic answer.
Okay, let me give you another question that you could just give us a bureaucratic answer to.
What was that noise that we just heard?
They're practicing these flames, I guess, right over our shoulder. That was very loud. Shout out to the SEC doing it big. These flames were like Ray Lewis's last game in Baltimore big. We're talking fireballs shooting up to the sky, very loud. Handle it like a professional, which is what you are. So, speaking of professional, college football has kind of become that, right? With the NIL and everything that's taking place. The NCAA is in an interesting time. Have you heard the chatter about maybe going away from an NCAA-run football league? Like Kirk Herbstreit, who's one of the biggest voices of college football for the last 3 decades, came on our show yesterday and was like, hey, the time is now. If we're going to move on from an NCAA-regulated football, it would be with this NIL, with the business of it all. Have you heard that? And how do you kind of manage all that while also still being an NCAA-affiliated club?
Yeah, absolutely heard it. I just left a group of legends, former SEC football players we honor this weekend, and the last question out the door was from one of our former players saying, how long are you going to be a part of that? And there's a lot of complexities. I don't think you just move football. That's my view, because I can't look. Last year we had the highest ranked collegiate in the NBA draft, the number 1 and 2 picks in the MLB draft, the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, number 1 NFL pick. You got to look them all in the eye and say, we're going to give you oh, by the way, we won the women's amateur, the men's amateur, the British Open. You want me to go on? We won 9 team championships, the CFP, and 8 NCAA championships.
It's different down here.
With that being said, you have to figure out how to treat your future Olympians in a fair way, too. And it would be tough to look the first round MLB